bill, which was recently passed, because I feel that supporting it would be endorsing government to take over. And if you don't like that phrase, that's okay. But maybe government to do one of the missions of which is given to the church. Now, I know that people, even other Christians, may take the exact opposite stance that I do. They might argue that by supporting more government intervention in healthcare, that they are doing their Christian duty of caring for the poor and the sick. In fact, I had a great response by, I believe his name is Mark McClure, who actually wrote a lengthy comment in favor of government intervention in healthcare, because he feels that the church has ultimately failed at its duty. Now, regardless of whether or not the church has failed, I don't particularly see that as a reason to say that that it's not anymore, it's no longer the church's responsibility. I think it is still and always will be the church's responsibility to do those sorts of things, no matter how many people receive tax dollars for health care. It's still the church's duty to care for the poor and the sick. And I think that when we delegate that responsibility, I'm afraid that we lose something, some part of our identity as caretakers, as sustainers, as being the image of God in the world. And I think that instead of the church having that, instead of the church being a witness and a light of Christ in that circumstance, then I think the government tends to shine and to have its name held up high. And that's really the heart of why I'm against it. I think also that churches, or you might say the church, depending on your background, should take care of people who need a place to live. Yet nowadays, when someone needs help with a house, they go to the government. Tim Geithner recently proposed ending the ambiguity to whether Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are really publicly or government-owned agencies. You see, I also feel like churches should take the lead in caring for those who need help with a place to live. I also think churches should take the lead in caring for the environment. Once again, government is planning to take over the mission of caring for God's creation. You see, I don't think it's a bad thing for a nation to do those things. But I feel like the problem is doing it under the namesake of a government, as opposed to doing it individually or corporately under the banner of the church. Because I think our role as a messenger of Christ and our message of salvation is ultimately going to be less relevant, maybe less well received when the church is not actively doing these works in society. When we say, well, we're already paying for that, I mean, let's just let the government do it. I know some people actually even say, right now, pre-healthcare bill passage, that I don't really need to tithe because the money I give to the government goes to caring for the poor and the sick and the homeless. So I'm already doing that. Why do I need to give money to the church? And I think the problem there is that government is not the church. It's not a representative of God necessarily. I do believe that government is to be respected, to be upheld, to be followed whenever possible. But at the same time, in a democracy where we can vote on things, I think that we should vote our conscience. And my personal conviction is that the church should take care of these things and not not the government. In my view, God has relationships with individuals and challenges them specifically. In the same way, then, individuals are responsible for caring for other individuals. We are personally responsible for caring for the sick, the homeless, the environment. The community is responsible only so far as it is a collection of individuals. When individuals share each other's burdens, like helping an individual pay for health care, the community or society fulfills its responsibility. In my view, the responsibility of the community is the sum of individual acts of responsibility. I'd also like to talk just for a moment about some things I've really been thinking of and writing about lately in the book of Zechariah. Zechariah 1:17, we have a unique creation metaphor here. Yahweh, if I say that, I apologize, but I get used to reading it in Hebrew, and so in Zechariah 1:17, God proclaims, Yahweh is the Hebrew name for God. God proclaims, "My cities will again overflow with prosperity." Now the verb overflow or spread or disperse is usually how it means, but there's a secondary meaning in the call stem, which is used here, and that is overflow. The call form used here in this sense is also found in Proverbs 5:16. This verb, when used in the hifil stem, can mean to disperse or to scatter things, such as mountains in Isaiah 28:25, which is a creative act. The use of this verb implies that a blessing will flow in torrential fashion.